Let me ask you something simple but quietly powerful. When was the last time you actually felt your birthday? Not just acknowledged it, not just tapped thanks on a cascade of social media notifications, but truly felt it, the way you did when you were a child. The way your heart used to thrum like a hummingbird's wings at the sheer, uncomplicated prospect of balloons, cake, and the sacred, singular spotlight of everyone you loved, smiling just for you. Now fast forward to adulthood. The calendar flips to that same date, but the magic has been vacuumed out. You wake up, maybe your phone buzzes with a few predictable alerts, your mom calls with that familiar, loving tone, and then you just move on. You tell your friends, I don't really celebrate. You claim you don't care. You insist it's just another day. But is it really? Or is that just the story you tell to soothe a quiet, unspoken ache? Let me ask you this. When you say it's just another day, does a small, hidden part of you secretly hope someone will prove you wrong? People who treat their birthdays with casual indifference aren't cold or emotionless. Often, they are the deepest feelers, the ones who have learned to hide their expectations because disappointment was a stern, effective teacher. Psychologically, birthdays are potent emotional mirrors. They reflect how you truly feel about being alive, how you relate to attention, and how comfortable you are being truly seen. When someone says, I don't care about my birthday, what they're often proclaiming is, I don't need validation anymore. But sometimes the silent, subtextual whisper is, I just stopped expecting it. There's a profound chasm between genuine maturity and emotional withdrawal, and birthdays have a strange, uncanny way of holding up a mirror to show us which shore we've landed on. So which is it for you? A conscious choice of peace, or a protective habit you've learned to wear comfortably? For a fortunate few, the fatting of birthday excitement is a genuine evolution, born not from sadness but from a deep, abiding peace. They have found meaning woven into the fabric of ordinary Tuesdays, in the rhythm of routines, and in quiet, uncelebrated moments. To them, joy is a constant, internal flame, not a sparkler lit once a year. But for others, the story is more complex. For them, birthdays are quietly complicated, stirring a subtle undercurrent of anxiety, not about aging but about memory. Perhaps the day echoes with the ghost of a time they felt forgotten, or it reminds them of a moment they cared too much and the resulting hurt was too sharp. So the armor goes on. It's just another day. It's protection, masterfully disguised as indifference. Can you recall a specific birthday that taught you to lower your expectations? What did that moment feel like? And that's where the psychology becomes truly fascinating, because it reveals the mind's brilliant, self-preserving adaptability. When we experience repeated emotional letdowns, our brain, like a clever manager, begins to lower the bar. This is emotional self-protection in its purest form. You preemptively reduce anticipation to surgically remove the potential for disappointment. You teach your heart not to hope too loudly. While this might sound tragic, it's actually a sophisticated form of emotional intelligence, a way to maintain equilibrium. The brain wisely prioritizes stability over an excitement that has too often led to pain. But here's the crucial question. In training your heart not to be disappointed, have you also accidentally trained it not to be delighted? Over time, that same intelligent self-protection can quietly cast a gray film over joy. The heart that once bravely shielded itself becomes a little too cautious, a little too fortified. You begin moving through your own life like a polite, observant guest at a party you were meant to host. You smile and say, "Oh, I don't really do birthdays." But later, in the quiet of the evening, you might find yourself mentally replaying the day, nodding who didn't message, who forgot, who said nothing. We all do it. Even the most steadfast claimers of indifference, because caring is human, and even the performance of not caring is, in itself, a form of caring, just inverted, compressed, and hidden beneath a shell of practiced composure. Be honest, when your birthday passes quietly, do you ever find yourself taking a silent, unconscious inventory of who remembered? Psychologists call this avoidant validation seeking. It's when you masterfully convince yourself you don't need recognition, because a younger, wounded part of you is terrified of not receiving it. This pattern often develops in people who, at some pivotal point, learned that their emotional needs were an inconvenience, that it was safer, simpler, to need nothing than to be let down again. So, when you meet someone who treats their birthday like any other day, don't mistake them for being detached. Sometimes they've simply made a quiet, brokered peace with disappointment. They've traded the roller coaster of excitement for the steady ground of control. But control, like all things, has a cost. What has your relationship with your birthday cost you? And what has that same relationship protected you from? Because beneath the calm, collected surface of "it's just another day" lies a universal emotional truth. We all want to be seen. Not praised with grand, performative gestures, but seen genuinely and deeply. There is something profoundly symbolic about birthdays. They are a marker of existence itself. The one day a year that is irrevocably, intrinsically yours. Not for your achievements, not for your relationships, but simply because you are. And for many, that stark reminder brings a swirl of conflicting emotions. Some feel gratitude, others feel a piercing loneliness. Some feel both at once, a strange cocktail of nostalgia and numb indifference. If your birthday is the one day that is truly yours, what does the way you spend it say about how you feel about yourself? It's because birthdays, whether we admit it or not, are a confrontation with time. They are a mile marker that shows us how far we've traveled and, sometimes painfully, how far we haven't. That's the silent psychological trigger most people overlook. For some, treating their birthday like a normal day is a deliberate strategy for staying emotionally grounded. It's a way of defanging time, of keeping the weight of another passing year from feeling too heavy. If I don't make it a big deal, they reason, then it can't feel like a big loss. Is your casual attitude a form of peace, or a shield against the pressure of time's relentless march? There's a cultural dimension to this shift, too. In childhood, birthdays are social milestones, rituals that cement our belonging. But in adulthood, that same spotlight can feel blindingly awkward. Many adults wrestle silently with a deep-seated tension, the innate desire to be noticed, clashing violently with the learned fear of seeming needy. And this internal tug-of-war plays out subtly in the minimalist way they treat their own special day. When did the spotlight change from feeling like a warmth to feeling like an interrogation lamp? Because here's what happens beneath the surface. When you grow up being the responsible one, the strong one, the perpetual giver, your mind internalizes a powerful message. Your joy comes second. You become an expert in downplaying your own needs. You become the person who remembers everyone else's anniversaries and birthdays, yet conveniently forgets your own. Over time, your birthday begins to feel irrelevant, almost alien. You're not even sure what you would do if someone planned a surprise. The very thought feels awkward, unnecessary, like wearing a costume that doesn't fit. Are you the one who remembers everyone else's day? If so, what story does that tell about what you believe you deserve? But let's be clear, that discomfort with being celebrated is rarely pure humility. More often, it's emotional fatigue. Deep down, many of these people still crave to feel seen, but not in a loud, chaotic way. They don't want attention, they want understanding. They want someone to remember not just their date of birth, but the person they've been struggling and striving to become all year long. What if the best birthday gift isn't a present, but the proof that someone has been paying attention to your journey? This is the central paradox of emotional maturity. The more self-reliant you become, the harder it can feel to receive love without suspicion. So birthdays become these neutral zones, places where vulnerability should rightly surface but is quickly replaced by practicality. It's fine, you say. Let's not make a fuss. But behind that quiet dismissal, your mind is a whirlwind processing dozens of emotions. A wistful nostalgia for childhood excitement, a subtle sadness for lost connections, a fierce gratitude for survival, and a soft, persistent longing for simplicity, for the kind of joy that used to come without a manual. In the quiet after you say, "It's no big deal," What are the real emotions that whisper in the silence? That's what makes this psychology so universal. Even if you believe you've fully outgrown birthdays, a part of you, a younger, more hopeful part, still remembers what it felt like to be celebrated without hesitation or shame. There's also a layer of existential reflection that psychologists have observed, something called temporal self-awareness. It's that moment you look back at the person you were a year ago and quietly measure the gap between who you hope to be and who you are now. And sometimes, that gap can feel more like a chasm. When you look at who you were last birthday, do you feel pride, distance, or a complicated mix of both? That's why for many, birthdays feel less like parties and more like mirrors. They highlight the silent, often uncomfortable distance between expectation and reality. And rather than face that stark reflection, people choose to downplay the day altogether. But don't mistake this for apathy. It's introspection. It's the human mind saying, give me space without an audience to process my own timeline. So if your birthday feels like a mirror, what is the reflection telling you this year? If you've ever felt strange about your birthday, like you're supposed to feel a joy that remains stubbornly out of reach, please know that you are normal. You are not ungrateful or broken. You are simply aware. Aware that time is moving. Aware that validation feels different now. Aware that true celebration has become something deeper, more personal, and more complex than cake and candles could ever satisfy. Has your definition of celebration changed? What does it mean to you now? Because birthdays were never really about age. They are about meaning. And the older we get, the more personal and sometimes more elusive that meaning becomes. When you were a kid, your birthday was about the world recognizing you. When you're an adult, it's about you recognizing yourself. It's less about the presents piled on the table and more about the presence you feel in your own life. It's less about who shows up to your party and more about how much of you has shown up for your own journey. When you look in the mirror on your birthday, who is it you're hopping to see? That's the subtle, seismic shift most people don't talk about. And yet, it explains everything about why we stop making a big deal out of it. Because maybe we've stopped trying to be celebrated by the world and started trying to make peace with our own personal journey. But even in that hard-won peace, there's an echo, a quiet, almost imperceptible voice that whispers, I hope someone still remembers. Can you hear that quiet whisper in yourself, even if you never admit it out loud? That's the paradox of emotional evolution. You can be profoundly content and still crave genuine connection. You can be utterly grounded and still miss the primal thrill of being seen. And that's okay. That's human. Because treating your birthday like a normal day doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've learned that joy isn't something to be scheduled on a calendar. It's something you carry quietly within you every day in the small, brave ways you keep showing up for yourself. It's the softest kind of celebration, invisible to the world but deeply real to you. But what if the goal isn't to choose between quiet contentment and joyful excitement, but to find a way to let both coexist? Here's where it gets even more interesting, a deeper layer most never realize. When someone treats their birthday like a normal day, they're not rejecting joy. They are, in fact, redefining it. They are declaring, I no longer need the world's permission or a prescribed ritual to feel good about being alive. And that shift, from external celebration to internal acknowledgement, marks one of the quietest, most profound forms of maturity. Have you given yourself permission to find joy in your own, unique way, even if it looks like nothing to everyone else? Because somewhere along the road, we all start to learn that the external things which once made us feel special, the gifts, the parties, the social media posts, begin to lose their luminous glow. What starts to matter more is a sense of alignment. Did I live this year in a way that feels true to my soul? Did I grow? Did I show up for my life when it truly mattered? If you were to measure your last year not by achievements, but by alignment with your true self, how would you score? For many, a birthday morphs from a noisy event into a silent, sacred reflection. It's not that they don't care. It's that their very definition of celebration has been rewritten. Maybe their celebration now looks like a long, solitary walk, cooking a beloved, elaborate meal just for one, or taking a quiet day off to simply think and be. It's not the loud, explosive joy of balloons. It's the soft, radiant joy of conscious solitude. What would your perfect, quiet, deeply personal celebration look like? Have you ever allowed yourself to have it? And that's something our culture often profoundly misunderstands. We confuse quiet with emptiness, but silence can be the most sacred container. In psychology, this is connected to self-concordant motivation. When your actions and your deepest values align, you experience a fulfillment so rich it needs no external validation. So when someone spends their birthday in silence, it's not apathy, it's alignment. They are choosing a steady, self-authored peace over a loud, fleeting, and often performative party. But let me ask you, in your pursuit of not being performative, have you ever denied yourself a genuine moment of joy? They've replaced the chase for external validation with something steadier, self-trust. But let's be honest, even within that peace, an emotional undercurrent often flows. Because while some people are genuinely content spending their birthday like any other day, others quietly, secretly wish they didn't have to. They wish someone else would take the initiative. They wish they could drop the armor of "it doesn't matter" without feeling vulnerable or needy. If you didn't have to be the strong one for just one day, what would you secretly hope for? That tension between wanting to be seen and wanting to seem unbothered is one of the most human contradictions there is. We all host this inner conflict, the longing to be noticed without having to ask, the desire for someone to carve out a space for your celebration without you having to request it. It's that universal, aching dance between our fierce independence and our profound need for intimacy. Which side wins that battle in you more often, the independent self or the one that longs for connection? Psychologically, this is tied to what's called earned secure attachment. When people have weathered emotional disappointments, perhaps growing up where affection was inconsistent, they learn the ultimate survival skill, depending solely on themselves. But here's the catch. Even the most self-sufficient people carry a quiet, hidden hope that someone will see through their armor, that someone will discern the need they so skillfully conceal. Who in your life sees through your "I'm fine" armor? Or do you feel you've built it so well that no one can? So a birthday becomes a subtle, unannounced test. It's not a test you create consciously, but one your heart administers and your mind quietly observes. Who remembered? Who reached out without a Facebook reminder? Who still sees me when I'm not making a sound? And even if you tell yourself with conviction that it doesn't matter, a small, ancient part of you still checks. That's not weakness. That is your humanity refusing to be silenced. Be honest, did you check to see who remembered this year? It's okay to admit it. Because no matter how self-aware or emotionally independent we become, we never truly outgrow the need for connection. We just become master architects of facades, building walls to hide the very need that makes us human. There's also a fascinating paradox in how we relate to time on our birthdays. For some, it feels like a celebration of progress. For others, it carries the weight of pressure. And your brain processes that pressure through the filter of your entire emotional history. Does your birthday feel more like a milestone or a millstone? If your past year has been fulfilling, a birthday feels like a proud milestone, a summit reached. But if the last year has been heavy, confusing, or marked by loss, a birthday can feel like a quiet internal confrontation, a reminder that another 365 days have slipped by and the big questions you harbored are still unanswered. That's why many choose to blur the day into the mundane rhythm of the week. It's not denial, it's self-preservation. It's saying, I will reflect on my life when I feel strong enough to handle what I might see. Is treating your birthday normally your way of being kind to yourself, of managing emotional weight? But even in that deliberate quiet, the day carries a gravitational weight. It stirs memory, gratitude, regret, and nostalgia into a potent emotional cocktail. It's as if your subconscious mind takes a silent, annual inventory of everything that's changed and everything that has stubbornly remained the same. And in that internal, unspoken dialogue, something powerful happens. You realize that birthdays, stripped of all tradition and external expectation, are ultimately checkpoints of consciousness. What unanswered question is your birthday quietly asking you this year? They force you to pause, even for a fleeting moment, and ask the fundamental questions. Am I living honestly? Am I still becoming someone I recognize and respect? Do I like the story I'm telling with my life? When you treat your birthday like a normal day, it doesn't necessarily mean you're avoiding these questions. It might actually mean you are facing them in the only way you know how, quietly, privately, without an audience. Is your quiet birthday a way of protecting your growth from the expectations of others? Because not every kind of growth needs a spotlight. Some of the most important growth is invisible. It happens in the dark soil of the soul. It's visible only in the way you react to stress differently than you used to. It's in the way you forgive faster, complain less, or find a sliver of beauty in a moment that last year would have passed you by entirely. And maybe, just maybe, that is the truest, most profound kind of celebration. When you no longer need a single day to feel extraordinary, because you have learned to find the extraordinary hidden inside countless ordinary moments. When was the last time you celebrated an ordinary, non-birthday moment just for you? Still, there is a gentle, crucial truth worth remembering. Even the most self-sufficient, resilient souls still deserve to feel special once in a while. Not because they need the validation to survive, but because genuine recognition nourishes the very parts of them that spend the rest of the year holding space for others. The ones who treat their birthdays like any other day are often the same people who are the quiet anchors in their circles. The ones who remember your important dates, who check on you first, who give without ever keeping score. Are you the anchor in your relationships? And if so, when was the last time you allowed someone to be the anchor for you? And sometimes, those people forget that they, too, deserve light. They forget that it's okay to let others give back, that you haven't failed by being strong all year. Because even the calmest souls need warmth, and even the most independent hearts need, on occasion, to be seen, not for what they do, but for the simple, beautiful fact of who they are. What would it feel like to be celebrated not for your strength, but simply for your existence? There is nothing wrong with wanting that. There is nothing weak about missing it. If you've ever felt that quiet, unnamed ache on your birthday, the kind that doesn't demand attention but still hums persistently beneath your chest, that is your heart sending you a gentle reminder. It's reminding you that connection still matters. It's reminding you that you are human, and that, perhaps, is the whole point of the day. What is that quiet ache trying to tell you? Have you ever stopped to truly listen to it? It's not a day to celebrate perfection or monumental achievement. It's a day to celebrate the messy, beautiful, ongoing fact that you are still here, still learning, still evolving, still trying to make sense of this magnificent, bewildering experience of being alive. So maybe the psychology of people who treat their birthday like a normal day isn't about indifference at all. Maybe it's about integration, the graceful merging of joy and reflection, the mature acceptance that not every deep emotion has to be loud to be real. Could your quiet birthday be a sign of integration, a blending of your past hopes with your present peace? And yet, even within that integrated peace, there is always space for small, sincere gestures, because one thoughtfully composed text can still light up someone's entire day. One voice note, one phone call, one moment of true presence. We chronically underestimate how deeply these tiny acknowledgments land for the person who claims, "It's just another day." To them, it was never about the scale of the celebration. It was always about the depth of the sincerity. It's about being reminded, in a world that is often too loud and too busy, that their quiet existence still sends ripples outward, that it still matters profoundly to someone. Who in your life says it's no big deal, but would be truly touched if you remembered them in a small, sincere way. And maybe that's the real, breathtaking psychology of it all, that deep in our core, none of us truly want to be invisible. We just want to be loved in a language we understand. Some souls need fireworks, others just need a profound, uninterrupted peace. Some thrive on surprises, others find solace in gentle consistency. Some want a crowd of cheering faces, others want one single person who listens, truly listens to the story behind their silence. And that's more than okay. There is no single, right way to experience your own existence. What is the unique, unspoken language in which you need to feel loved and seen? So if your birthday feels ordinary, if you went to work, made your coffee, scrolled through your messages, and carried on with the rhythm of your life, maybe that's not a problem to be solved. Maybe it's a reality to be honored. Because what you are really saying is, my life is already full enough, rich enough, and meaningful enough that I do not need one single day to manufacture its significance. That isn't detachment. That is gratitude in its most sophisticated, undercover disguise. Could your indifference actually be a secret badge of a life well lived? But at the very same time, grant yourself the grace to be soft. If you sometimes miss the unbridled excitement you once possessed, it is more than okay to feel that too. Missing your younger self doesn't mean you've regressed. It means you are honoring the memory of what innocence felt like, before the world taught you the necessity of restraint. What part of your childhood birthday joy do you miss the most? Can you gift a small piece of that to yourself now? And perhaps that is the greatest, most compassionate gift you can give yourself on your birthday. To close your eyes and remember that child who once counted down to midnight with eyes full of starlight, who believed with every fiber of their being that one single day could hold infinite, unexplainable magic. Because that child is not gone. They are still there, somewhere inside you, waiting not for a massive party, but for a moment of acknowledgement. Waiting for the adult you to turn inwards and whisper, "Hey, I see you. We made it. We made it another year." What would it feel like to acknowledge that inner child on your birthday this year? That's the kind of celebration that doesn't fade when the candles are blown out. That's the kind of light that stays with you, a gentle ember in your heart. So, if your birthday ever feels like just another day, please don't feel guilty. It's not emptiness. It's evolution. It's your mind and heart learning together that the deepest meaning doesn't need noise to exist. And yet in the quiet, if someone remembers you, let them. Let them say your name. Let them remind you that you matter, because you do, even on the days that feel perfectly ordinary, even when you treat your birthday like a normal day, especially then. Because maybe that's the most beautiful, hard-won lesson of growing up, learning that true celebration doesn't always need confetti and fanfare. Sometimes it just needs your own gentle, unwavering awareness. A single moment of stillness, a deep, conscious breath. You don't have to close your eyes and make a wish. You already are one, a living, breathing continuation of every single version of yourself that fought, cried, laughed, and persevered to make it here. And that all of that is worth celebrating. Quietly or not, but every single year.